Welcome to Leadership Story Talks, where culture-driven leaders share real-life stories of challenge, growth, and connection. Join Jerome, Deroy, and Julienne Ryan as they explore how storytelling shapes leadership, strengthens teams, and brings employee engagement to life.
But you have to build it with the end user, with the sales teams. Here, in our case, it was much more from the sports scientist, from the athletic trainers, etc. And then at the end of all of the iterations and building, they were very engaged with what we were doing. It's the education of these models back to them so that they are the conduits to the players to make that impact. So you can say, okay, it's remarkable what we built, but we could not do it with the humans on inception of the program and then on the true deployment and impact of the program, because we're not with the players. And so it's such a ripe example in today's day and age when everybody is saying, okay, AI is going to replace humans. Didn't do that at all.
Hello, once again for a debrief episode. And that was the wonderful Jennifer Langton telling us about her experience working with the NFL on an AI program and showing a bit more evidence that it's not all about the bots and that human beings are really important in building models that work. So this was inspiring to me. I have to confess, it was very, very hard to just choose one excerpt from that episode. So I highly recommend our listeners to go back to the full episode because it's filled with nuggets of wisdom and practical tips that you can take away for your own career and leadership development. So yeah, but we focused on this one, and I'm curious what your thoughts are to kick us off.
Well, what an amazing experience, and so well timed for the Women's Month and learning and just navigating new environments. She really showed incredible leadership examples because at the NFL she was also championing the players' health, looking at innovation, building relationships in areas that she did not have expertise, and was open and willing to be a student and got other people to be that in order to move their cause for good forward for the athlete's health and well-being. So did cutting edge work because of that and made collaborations happen, and then took that outside of the role she had later on. So she has this incredible gift of being grounded in who she is and figuring out how to speak to that person and get the best of the best out of each relationship. So yeah, there's so much packed into that episode.
Yeah, for sure. And what I remember most vividly is she talked a few times actually about this idea of leading with empathy or empathetic leadership and compassionate leadership as well. And we kind of dug into what that meant. And I think this quote that we chose to open the podcast is pretty symptomatic of that, because what she meant is that she thinks about people, and she gets to at the level of that people need essentially, and then she also surrounds in order to grow and develop them when they're junior ones. But then when there are people who are subject matter experts that she knows nothing about, but she knows that she has to have them on the team because she knows nothing about those things, she was extremely open and willing to learn and willing to take in information that she didn't understand at first, for the greater good, essentially, of the project. And as you said, this was about the health of football players, and at a time when a lot of people were really down on the NFL and saying you're not doing enough for the health of professionals. And they really went into it. They really delved deep into it and used AI and all these other kind of cutting edge technology to be able to improve the safety and health of players as we see today, actually. So even though it's not a perfect world, it has really improved quite a lot. And that's, so it was interesting to kind of look under the hood of how that was done. And so interesting to me that people were put first. Scientists were put first, the players were put first, the staff was put first. And then these leaders such as Jennifer Langton really just helped to be the conduit, helped to kind of guide to a project that ultimately was very successful. So I think that's a great lesson in leadership for everyone that's listening,
Mhm.
and a great lesson in just being open and open to learn.
Well, she was a student leader, and there are different models of thought where you say, well, if I'm a leader, I'm supposed to be, full of bluster and show I know everything and no one can tell me anything. And she showed the positives of being the other. And
Mm,
the fact that she was a student and she learned, and the results came and
yeah,
people bought into what she was talking about because she didn't make any of those presumptions and assumptions. She was healthy in her own stance of what their mission was and got the people to give them her best.
yeah,
And the best was the result. So I
yeah.
think that's a good thing to, that's what true leadership is, really. Be a constant learner.
Absolutely. And I'm remembering her kind of origin story, of blowing out her knee when she was a really accomplished lacrosse player. The fact also that she was an all boys team, et cetera, and what she had to kind of endure and overcome. Um, but it's interesting because it brought me back to one of our other episodes with Neil Dunn. And
Mm,
I'll be sure to put that in the notes so that people can find that. But again, where there was a similar trajectory where he had an injury and, had to kind of pivot. And it's interesting, these moments in life, especially with athletes, where, you think you're going in one way and then an injury happens and that stops everything. And it's fascinating to me to hear about these stories of, okay, so what do you do now? And these are two great examples of
mhm.
people being able to build back from that, and create really amazing careers, very inspiring. So it's making me want to have more people from the athletic world and those kinds of
Absolutely.
stories. I think I'm going to put that out into the universe now of attracting athletes.
Yeah, and anybody who's in the performance space, that
Mm,
everything depends on those few minutes and things
yes,
working in sync in every moment, and not every situation is like that. So
that's
yeah, I
right.
think that is a good intention and thinking prompt and a call to action to anyone who's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think the reason why I'm so attracted to it, and I think people are in general, is because it really follows the story arc, right? When you think of the archetypical archetype story, it always has like a fork in the road moment. Something happens to the protagonist that's pretty dramatic, and now we genuinely don't know as an audience what's going to happen to that protagonist.
Mm,
And that's fascinating. And so here are real life stories where that happens, and whether it's a dancer, an artist, or an
mm,
athlete. I think those are the kinds of people. Yeah, absolutely. It's fundamental to hear those stories at a moment when we need inspiration. I think,
correct.
to kind of mirror our own lives and see where we might be able to go next.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
with you on this one.
All right. Well, great.
I'm always
Well,
with you on this.
yeah, I know. Well, that's
Let
why
me
we do
just
it,
correct
right?
that. Yeah,
That's why we got more than 130 episodes at this
I
point.
know. We can't
And
stop
and
talking.
and we're keep going. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. If you've been inspired by this episode, definitely feel free to come to our website, narrative.com, and let us know. There's a contact form there. Send us your thoughts about your own trajectory. What was a moment in your life where something happened where you needed to pivot and find something else to do? And if you're an athlete, if you're an artist, if you're a performer of any kind, please reach out. We would love to have you on the show and talk to you about this. So yeah, narrative.com, narrativ.com. We're always ready to listen, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Julienne.
Bye. Always
Bye.
happy here.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.